How does it feel, guys, to know the younger generation are developing an attitude which makes the older generation, i.e. particularly over the age of 70, obsolete in terms of their way of thinking, their right for democracy, their right as a citizen of this country, no matter the demographic? If you are considered a tax-paying, law-abiding individual, you deserve the rights that any other individual in this country should get. 47% of 16 to 34-year-olds would quite happily take the democratic vote from any citizen from the age of 70 and above. Anyone of that age who votes will probably not get to see the consequences. Any democratic vote leads to negative consequences. So what they're alluding to Brexit, and they're alluding to a part in Scotland where they've worked out through the demographics, if the older vote would not have carried at the time of the referendum, it would have meant a place that voted out democratically, possibly through numbers, would not have voted out. Well, they just can't vote. How do you feel as a grandparent? You've been looking after your kids, you've been looking after your kids when they have their own children. You've been making sure their needs are put before yours, even in your twilight years when you do deserve to relax, only to find out that probably 47% of them don't want you to have a say democratically. That's almost like sitting at a family table. You've got mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, plus you've got the grandparents that happen to be over 70. As the conversation flows on whatever topic it may be, it gets to the grandparents and the family goes, well, I'm sorry, but you don't deserve a say on this, so can we just skip you two and then we'll go on to the other generation? Is that the thanks that you get? This implementation comes into fruition, which these indoctrinated socialist wannabes really want. That would mean that people who have got a democratic right and have paid taxes all of their life, far more contributions than the average person, let's say they've worked for most of their life, because their vote is now been revoked. That would mean an economic migrant of any demographic, whether it be African, Middle Eastern, Eastern European, wherever in the globe they come from, to bring positivity and to help better their life, or to sit and enjoy the fruits of the socialised system. Whichever one it may be, what we are now saying, or at least 47% between 16 and 34 are now saying, anyone who comes into the country who initially, I'm sure at some point, will be eligible to vote, they will have more democracy than someone of the twilight years who was paid into the system for all their life and got the scars to prove it.
So I was walking around my hometown this morning before I got on the train to come into London, and the old people, there's lots of old people, they absolutely, oh thank you, they would come to me and go, thank you for where you are. And then I was saying, I was coming up to London, oh you're going to be a great kid city. All
nice.
Pensioners, and one bloke, 92 years young he was, and he wanted to come and shake your hand and say thank you for being able to give him the voice that he wanted.
Brilliant. One thing I'm going to ask you now, because you've brought an age bracket into it. I was reading an article last week from The Sun where it stated that there was an area...
Look at the vultures.
In the Sun, it was saying that there was a poll that was taken of over 2,000 people, and the age bracket between 16 and 34, 47% of them voted that anyone over 70 should not have the right to vote in Brexit. Now, what do you think about that, sir?
It's bloody disgusting. We've got wisdom with our age.
You'd think that wisdom should be adhered, shouldn't you, you know?
What they've gone through to get to where we are today so that they have a voice, they're not seeing all that, are they? I don't think so.
It's the young kids that are born into socialism that just want to cut out.
They're due to in that age through the schools, isn't they? That's the trouble. They're told that. It's a rhetoric when they're told that.
When we first had the Brexit referendum, I voted, and my daughter come home a couple of days later, having spoken to some of her teachers, and there was a rumour going round school. It sounds really silly, but it's a lot to kids. You know them magic stars, the little chocolate-like fluffy treats? They were told that if we vote out of Europe, they will no longer be able to have magic stars. Now, it sounds silly, but if you're going to tell a kid you ain't... It's propaganda. It's light propaganda against children. So she's coming home thinking, no, we want in Europe because I want my bleeding chocolate stars. So if they're doing that, what else are they doing?
Yeah, that's like the old Chinese lark, isn't it? With the point system. If I do something, it reflects on the whole family.
Yeah.
And they watch. And that's why phone banks, everything, everywhere you go, you watch to see if everything is done.
Yeah.
Everything is monitored. When you have wrong thing, your family will suffer.
Yeah, they turn on you.
That's what
it feels like it. Yeah, it does.
And it's all communism under the guise of democracy.
Isn't this going to be an interesting Christmas? I can imagine a lot of grandparents now saving a few quid because they're going to look at their granddaughters and grandsons and go, you cheeky little bastards. I think it's the most disrespectful way you could treat any generation. This is discrimination. It's not by colour, it is by age, and it is of the assumption that the brain cells within that individual are no longer valid. That is, for me, the most disrespectful thing you could do to anyone. And when I look at it on a more socialistic level, it worries me even more to look at other civilizations, other societies, whether you like them societies, whether you agree with them societies. China, if nothing else, they have an obligation, what appears to be a willing respect for the elders. I think of the indigenous Indians, the elders, their way of thinking, their oral stories that they passed down from generation to generation. Their mentality was revered. And because of that, the community thrived because not only did it have the youth, it had experience, which you cannot buy. But yet 47% no longer think that that is necessary within this society. That for me is the saddest thing, a reflection on how children deem people of an elderly years. One thing I will leave you with, if the next question posed to all of these people that made this poll, if they were to ask them, how do you feel about euthanasia from the age of 70 plus? It would be interesting to see what the results would be. Can I say I would be surprised? I have no idea. But it does make you feel that you're hurtling towards an age of irrelevance. A
lot of the politicians and some of the more upper-class people that are basically trying to discredit the Leave vote. They're saying, I mean, what was the one I read this morning online? It was like, I don't know which woman it was, but they were saying, oh yes, working class people, don't, you know, they're unintelligent, they don't know what they're voting for, this, that, and the other. It should be left down to the upper class and working professionals.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
couple that with a new poll that come out stating that between 16 and 34, 47% of that age bracket said that people over 70 shouldn't have the vote on issues of Brexit because they're not going to be alive long enough to...
So, no.
How wrong is that?
I would...
So that's a classist, that's ageist.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Wow.
Absolutely.
The older they are, the more experience they have.
Sure.
Right? I mean, the whole thing about letting the 16-year-olds vote, it's purely a move by Labour because they know that 16-year-olds, they just
don't know their ass from their elbow.
They want to vote for what sounds good.
Of course.
And Labour are always pushing things such as...
Give them trinkets.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the end of the day,
The 16-year-olds don't even know whether they're
No,
boys,
they
girls,
don't
or
know.
trees, do they?
Exactly.
They can't even get out of bed, can they?
I mean,
They can't even get out of bed.
But they've been unfairly mixed up, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, when you've been mixed up like that, how can you make a proper decision, a well-informed decision when you don't
the
know
good
anything?
thing about it, it's surprising how many young people have voted for Brexit. Or would vote if they had their chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Most of the young people that I know are Brexit supporters.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and that's quite telling. I think there's more than you think. Possibly they didn't vote at the time.
Sure.
But you know, I think there's more people than you would expect.
Well, that's good. I wonder how they feel. Because they are a minority within their own age bracket, in a sense.
I don't know how much of a minority they are.
Sure. Fair to say. Yeah.
Well, 16 is just an age. Once you give the right to vote to a 16
But we know people, don't we? We know people that are Brexit supporters.
Yes, but what do they all have in common? They actually understand our history.
Yes.
They understand
That's right.
European
That's true.
history.
That's true.
I mean, myself and him, we have a long interest in European history. Now, I've said this from the outset. If the European Union were what it was set out to be, when it formed, I'd have voted to remain. But it's not. They have used that union to abuse power and bring in a central government. And now, I mean, you've probably seen it. If you go online and you Google Verhofstadt gets angry over the refusal to transfer power from member states to the EU. It's
scary.
It's 56 seconds long, and
He's like a lunatic, isn't he? He's like a lunatic.
it's a dictatorial. It's so dictatorial, so bad.
So I'll put some screenshots up of the article, guys. You let me know what you think. I thoroughly am shocked, dismayed, and in some ways pretty disgusted with the lack of respect that is given on the premise of pushing a socialised agenda, indoctrinating kids to no longer feel that people of an elderly years have got any validation anymore. Respect whoever, young or old, white or black. That's my philosophy and I'm going to stick with it. Thank you very much. Red Pill Phil, I love you all. Even all those above 70 years of age.